Yeah, and
Dr. Rachel Glick, welcome back to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. I think this is the first time I've had a guest on for the second time. So it's amazing. I'm so happy to speak to you. And for a bit of context, for those who maybe listened to the first episode we did, I interviewed you about your book, A Soulful Marriage, and we spoke about relationships, communication, frameworks, etc. And towards the end of our conversation, we talked about Kabbalah, and you planted a seed in my brain because I'm a spiritual seeker, so I wanted to find out more. And then you booked this second interview when I was actually going to be in New York, so I had to cancel it. And then you connected me with the Kabbalah Center in New York, and I've made a lot of content about my experience in the US. And I must say that has been one of the big highlights of my experience in New York. So I'm so grateful. And yeah, so thank you so much for this connection that you've made. I attended a session and now I have questions and a seed has been planted.
fabulous. That's so exciting.
Yeah, amazing. So
Yeah.
tell us
And you
about
just never know, like two souls need to come together, like we were meant to meet each other and didn't even know exactly where else it was going to lead. But yeah.
amazing. And also, I looked up the Kabbalah Center when I was in Midtown. It's a 6 minute walk from my hotel, so it couldn't be more convenient. Can you
It's
imagine?
amazing, right? I love it.
So when I
Yes.
got there, everyone was just so friendly to me. And then people on the
Mhm.
table I was sitting at knew me. And I can't remember which exact class it was, but I think it was Kabbalah level one, but I'm not sure which class it was. But it was really insightful and I was really taking notes. And then when I was leaving, I saw the bookshop and I'm a real reader. So I picked up this book, True Prosperity. Have you read
Oh,
this?
yes, absolutely.
So
I
so
have.
So then I took a flight from New York to Miami, and then I went from Miami to LA. So I just basically I devoured this book when I was on the
Mm.
plane. So that kind of planted a bit more seeds, a bit more context for me about Kabbalah and some of the concepts about certainty, about bread of shame, about the opponent, all of this. So when people think of Kabbalah, I think people think, oh, Madonna was into that in whatever year it was. So can you tell us a bit more about what exactly is the Kabbalah, or what is your role
Yes.
in it? Mhm.
Yes, and Madonna is a student, of Kabbalah. So it's not a Madonna movement, so to speak, but Madonna happens to be one of the students. Yeah,
Yeah.
and which is beautiful. But yeah, so Kabbalah is an ancient spirituality. It's universal.
Hmm.
A lot of people think of it as a Jewish mysticism
Hmm.
because a lot of the Kabbalists were Jewish, but they're Christian Kabbalists as well, even
Oh,
popes who
wow.
have a copy of the Zohar, which is the major text of Kabbalah. And so it's an ancient spiritual wisdom, as the way the Kabbalah Center teaches it is that the universe is a perfect system of cause and effect.
Hmm.
And learning the kind of rules of this world and what our place is in it gives us so much power and context to make meaning out of what we're going through, but actually use everything we're experiencing for the sake of our own continued elevation and like our potential and our fulfillment.
Talking about your story, how did you discover Kabbalah and how has it transformed your life?
Mm. It was very related to my marriage, in fact,
Mhm.
because, and I write about this in the book too, where my husband and I reached a place where I was feeling disconnected. I didn't feel this close connection as I had initially felt. And I deemed it, and we decided together that we needed to go deeper, that we
Mhm.
needed to start exploring. And we wanted to find a spirituality that we could both do together. So for about 15 years, we explored all different kinds of things, all different kinds of paths, all different kinds of seminars, mind, body, spirit things, and then and went through a lot of personal growth and bumps and revelations in that journey that we believe led us to discover Kabbalah. So some friends of ours were studying with the Kabbalah Center, and they saw one of the books on our shelf that had some like inkling that we would be interested, and so they shared with us a couple of books that were from the Kabbalah Center. I can show you what those two. I have the two
Oh,
books right
let's
here in
do,
my
yes. As a reader, I would love to know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let
I
me
need
quickly. I'll
something
go.
more
Yeah,
to
go.
read after this one.
Yeah, no, I just had my hands on it like 2 seconds ago. Funny, like not related to this. And
Like,
these
oh,
were
it's
the
all
these
related, maybe. It's all
Of
related.
course. No, literally, I brought this from home
Mhm.
today
Oh,
because I know
wow.
that sometimes clients, I'm in my home, my office with my clients. These were the two books,
Oh, Power of
The Secret by
Kabbalah.
Michael Berg, and then Power of Kabbalah, The Teachings of Rav Berg.
Okay.
And so this was the one that my husband and I read like, I don't know, 15, 20 pages, and I was like, I just like time stood still. It was so resonated with my soul. And then I handed it to him. And I waited and to see what he thought because I just had no idea. And he was like, he closed the book and he said, "Now this I can do."
Oh,
And
wow.
that became like that. It became our spiritual home. This was 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And so we really leaned into the wisdom to help our relationship, to help us parent our children with a sense of purpose and it's just to this day, it's just a very fundamental guide for us for close at home inside our relationship when we're dealing with a challenge, when we're starting to have an argument, or we really pull up the tools and remember the consciousness that comes from the wisdom that this is actually a good thing. We're here to grow. So, okay, let's welcome this conflict.
Okay.
So,
So are you a Kabbalah teacher as well?
yes. So
Oh.
I started being active where I live in St. Louis. There was not a Kabbalah center. So I started getting very involved in leadership with the
Mm.
center to help create groups. And so then over a period of 5 to 7 years, then I went through multiple trainings and they asked if I would be a teacher. So I teach basic level stuff. The deeper stuff I like to count on the senior teachers for, but I teach that level one that you
Mm.
visited. I teach that level one course, and then I mentor and am involved with helping the teachers with curriculum and with mentoring groups of people from all over the world. So
Wow.
yes, I volunteer to do it. It's not my full-time job,
Uh,
but it is a fairly important part of the work that I do.
Amazing. So it's had lots of influence in your own life as well.
Yes. And then I
Everything.
weave it into
Mm.
my therapy, with my therapy practice. It's very powerful, healing, like counterintuitive, often unexpected ideas and concepts and wisdoms that can help enhance people's healing individually from trauma, healing in their relationship. And there's really just no place that it doesn't shed light on.
So when you were actually, what was it about Kabbalah that was different from other modalities that made you think this is the one?
It's such a good question. I think it was really my soul. It just spoke
Mm.
to me. Like it just, like a Xanadu moment, like
Mm.
da da da, like it just like sparks. But some of the things that were in there were how important it is to really push and ask questions, how, how it's quantum. They use the word quantum, and
Okay.
it really blends. It's like really with the Rav, who is the one who these are the teachings from Rav Berg in this book. The whole thing is from this is a person who brought with his wife the wisdom to become what it is today in terms of accessibility.
Mm.
But the science of it, he would call it like 35th century science. So
Wow.
it's really very much in line with what we're discovering more and more with science. So this idea of quantum, that if you do, we were struggling with one of our kids at the time we started studying. I think our daughter was maybe 12 at the time. And so the first thing the teacher said to us when we met personally about is you two work on your relationship and it'll be quantum. It'll help your daughter.
Okay.
And that like we had some connection with the gap we had between us, the areas where we were missing a sense of unity
Mm.
and we weren't growing enough. And if we were to be busy with focusing on our own personal and spiritual growth together, it would start to open gates for our daughter. And that just was like it just resonated with me, the quantum part. And I also what really stood out to me was how instrumental the idea of our purpose, which is the second book, The
Okay.
Secret. This what this whole book is about. I'm sort of giving away the secret, but
What's the actual tagline of it? The secret
it says unlocking the source of joy and fulfillment. It's a
uh,
different book than The Secret that became a little
yeah,
more
yeah.
popular.
I
This
know.
one precedes it, and it's a wonderful little book that has lots of parables but it's the idea is that we came to learn to share.
Mm.
And soul, we have a body and we have a soul. We have an ego and we have a soul part of us. We have two parts of us, and the soul has what's the most fulfilling for the soul is to become a being of sharing, of just adding value and imparting. And of course, we need to receive in order to refill our wellspring and not neglect ourselves at all. That's really important. But liked was drawn to the wisdom because I'd always felt I could be doing more, and it helps push me. It helps push me to stretch myself to give more, and that just my soul's very happy about that.
So what does the word Kabbalah actually mean?
It means to receive.
Okay.
That's the paradox is that kabel is the root word in Hebrew, which means to receive. And so it's like the path of how you learn to receive because we were created in order to receive
Mm,
source. And that's the perfect system of cause and effect. The cause is the source of all creation. They call it the light of they call it a creator or a source, but you can call it anything you want. It's just a universal beneficent intelligence, and that we are the effect of that source.
mhm.
And so we are here to receive and learn how to receive in a way that we receive everything that source wants to give us. And so the paradox is that often like to share is a really powerful way to receive if
Okay.
it's done in the right way, in particular.
Something a few things that stood out to me in my own journey because I was brought up Catholic, and I think it's the absolute opposite because Catholicism is about self erasure almost. You know, we are sinners, and we're worthless, and everyone else is more. You know, it's about giving more than receiving, I think, and it's not about coming from a full cup. It's almost about sacrifice and being empty. You know, being emptying yourself out almost, and that's
Yeah.
very, you know, it's even though you know in your logical brain that's not quite right. It's hard to kind of negotiate with your with your brain sometimes about things and just try and make a reset. You know, so that's something that really stood out to me. It's very empowering. This thought of um, thinking that you're powerful and you have the right to receive, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And so
Yes. And go
and there are
ahead.
other things that kind of stood out to me in comparison with law of attraction. Something about the teacher that was there talked about the illusion of contentment, and I wrote that down. I thought that was very interesting because you know, in law of attraction, it's all about gratitude for what you have before you get the rest. And not that you're not grateful, but I found that in the Kabbalah the meeting I went to, it was about asking for more. You know,
Mhm.
so this
Mhm.
is just so, you know, it's a big reset. So tell us about these different
Exactly.
concepts.
And that's one of the things that's just so invigorating, I find, in the wisdom is it's a constant set of resets.
Mm,
It's counterintuitive, but often though it's really there's some truths that are in some of the other things that we have learned, but it just has not been put into proper balance. Because, for example, this idea of like the first point where you said this, like, not coming from a place of fullness to give, like
mm,
that's where it just needs to be tweaked.
mm,
There's paradox. All the truths are in paradox, and learning how to hold those paradoxes and being in two places at the same time allows you to maximize how the system of the universe works. And a lot of paths take it and then they get out of balance with it. It just is, it's not a full system. It's just cattywonk of one part of the system. So, for example, it is good to sacrifice and to give to others, but it has to be counterbalanced with this idea that we're already full, and that
mm,
we're already whole, and that we're already perfect and beautiful and valued beyond what we could ever imagine. We're a spark of the Creator. We're magnificence. We're a marvel. And so we often get riddled with guilt or riddled with like we're so bad, but it's about holding the space of there's a part of us that is whole and perfect and radiant and beautiful, and at the same time we have an ego to protect us, which is a necessary part of the whole process and the system that is just teaches us or blocks our perception. And so
mm,
that's the part we need to transform, not our essence. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with any of us. We all belong here. We all are whole and perfect. So coming from that place of I want to give not because I'm bad and because I have to earn, or I have to earn my love or earn my worth. It's more of because I am so full, because I have so much to give, I'm only going to be fulfilled and
mm,
receive the blessings I'm meant to receive if I come from that place of fullness and shine that out and reveal that in the world. And it does mean you self-examine and you have to look at your negativity, of course, at your garbage, so to speak. But
mm,
it's always with the backdrop of self-love and we're being loved constantly. And
mm.
And then the other part that you said about the being grateful and how do you
Mm,
balance already being happy with what you have, but not being content.
mm.
And like with Kabbalah, it's like what is it? Always appreciative but never satisfied, kind of.
Okay, I love that.
Because the vessel, our desire, we learn a lot about desire, and I do talk about that in the book. But you
Mm.
study like the wisdom that just you get to appreciate the idea of desire and how much a gift that is if you have it.
That's another thing I wanted to the comparison, make a comparison with law of attraction, because desire, in law of attraction or wanting is about saying you don't have, and it's like attracts like. So that was a very different concept as well, because it was talking
Yeah.
about craving and real desire. So can you
Mhm.
tell us about that? Because that's
Yes. Again, it's going to be about balance in a lot
mm,
of because you want to really want something, but also be aware that it's already manifested in the upper world. It's already
mm,
there. But you still need in this world, you have to do an action and awaken a vessel for it in Kabbalah. We call it Kli is in Hebrew, but it's a vessel.
mm,
And so it's which is a feminine principle. It's a feminine energy to have we need a vessel. So we need to be in two places at once where everything is already in some realm, and it's called the endless realm. All the solutions exist, all the blessings we ever need exist, but we're in this physical world. So to bridge
mm,
the two, then we need to have a desire in this world. But we want to
mm,
keep in mind to maximize the fulfillment of that is to also keep in mind not come from lack and be in a place where it's already there. So that's where it's if you don't aren't being stretched to embrace the paradox of it,
mm,
only going to get half or a portion or some revelation of what the wisdom of the universe has to offer.
mm,
And that takes time. And like it's hard to do the brain, it's hard for the brain to do paradox.
mm.
And
So
with
so
time, you start to be able to, like, after 20 years, I feel myself being like I can hold them both better than I did before.
mm. There's a lot of resets happening here. So also, and the teacher talked about, the light doesn't coerce, so we must ask for what we want.
Mhm.
How can we ask? Do you have any kind of tips about how we can ask for the things we desire? I mean, how do you do it in the Kabbalah way?
Yes.
Mm,
So, one of the things that is so unique also about the wisdom, like, let's say, and there's nothing negative about law of attraction. It's all has good truths in it, but it only goes so far. So, when you're asking, you want to ask also with the sense of perpetuity. Two
mm,
things. You want to realize that it's not going to be like forget thyself kind of thing, that it's only because I'm connected to the source
mm,
and it's not mine. We don't own that. We're just part of the totality. And the second thing is that we want to receive what we want to receive for us, but also so how we can be a being of sharing with it.
mm.
And that's where I think my understanding of the law of attraction or the secret is it's about receiving, but not necessarily that other part of the process and the
Giving.
part and then so that you can receive more. So if you want to manifest, like in writing the book, I meditated before I would open my notebook or my computer, which is I want these words to be filled with the light and for it to then have perpetuity and continuity with who it's going to help so that they can help others and it's going to be go on endlessly. Where it
Mm,
could have been about like, I need to accomplish this, I need to prove I'm worthy, I have this
mm,
information, I have to get it down. I tried to be aware, like, and I would ask for help. It was a desire, help me manifest this book, help me with what I should say, help me meet the right people to make it happen, but so that I can fulfill my soul's potential, which is going to be one of sharing, because it's all the soul wants to do. So if you link your desire with how, with an unlimited sense of the reach of it to help others as
mm,
well, then we receive more along the way. It's not to deprive us and skip over us. That's the difference with maybe some of the other belief systems, is that we are to be deprived. No, we're here to receive. We're here to enjoy, and we are better to enjoy all the physical things in life when we aren't so preoccupied with them, and we are
mm,
focused on how we can be a channel for sharing. Then, when you do eat that vegetable, or you eat, or you
mm,
have that sweet, or you have that nature view, or you have that kiss, or whatever you're doing, you are here to fully, fully enjoy it, and that brings pleasure to the cosmos.
Okay, cool. I love that. So I actually, another concept which was quite interesting was the opponent. Can you tell us about what's the opponent?
Yeah.
And why do
So
we need an opponent? What is the opponent?
Yeah. So the opponent is, there's several different names for it, but um, it means like some sort of opposition, some sort of adversarial
Mm,
part of us that needs resetting. So
mm,
it's the part of us that's, we call it the ego, also is another word term for it, which is more of protective mechanisms.
mm,
And it's limited. The opponent is going to think the bad thoughts we have about ourselves, or the negative view we have of somebody else, the conclusions we jump to, the fears that we have, the doubts that we have about ourselves and about life and our life. All those come from an opponent. And people aren't really an opponent, but they represent the energy that we need to oppose us at times in order to awaken our free will to choose to follow our soul's path and not our ego's drives. So, and one of the teachings in Kabbalah that was so also life altering was how this concept you mentioned of bread of shame.
mm,
And to understand the opponent, it's helpful to understand bread of shame, which is that we don't like the feeling. It's an unpleasant feeling when we earn something, when we receive something we haven't earned, when we haven't put in effort. And it's like, because there's no vessel for it. And so it just, in fact, we can actually feel worse from it and less appreciative of the person maybe giving it to us or the source of where we receive. So when we have an opponent, it gives us a chance to taste transformation, that we have something to push us against us. So we can choose whether it's, I'm going to choose to go forward and share, even though I'm feeling like I don't have anything to give, or that I feel bad
mm,
about myself, or I'm preoccupied and ruminating over this bad thing that's happening to me. An opponent will say, stay inside, focus on yourself, go to bed. Um, you're a nothing. Life isn't good for you. Versus the soul says, this is just an opportunity for you to go mind over matter.
mm,
And whatever it is that you need to heal that's coming in that is being represented by something of a negative voice or a negative occurrence in your life is really just an opportunity here for you, and to heal it through sharing or heal it through being proactive. Like being, anytime you're proactive, you're sharing. Proactive could mean that you're going to do something really good for yourself
mm.
and not neglect yourself. That's also proactive and giving.
So it's making you more kind of refining your desire for the thing you want, I suppose, rather than having this straight kind of easy path. It's kind of like making you giving these obstacles are kind of making you desire it more and maybe more have more I don't know, willpower to get it. Would you say that's right or something
Yeah,
like yeah?
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah, because the opponent will make us go
mm,
for the instant gratification.
okay.
It doesn't really think long term. So
Mm,
if you're upset with someone, the opponent will say that you have a right to yell at them,
mm,
or you have a right. You should stay with someone because you're going to be alone forever. So don't. That means you're going to be alone. You may not find anybody else. So just stay with this person that's just mediocre for you, or not treating you well, or not fulfilling. Or it could say, just leave. It's getting too tough. Leave. Like, it's very customized. So
mm,
what you said that really stood out to me was that there's two desires. There's the short-term desire and there's the long-term desire. And the soul
mm,
thinks long-term. It has patient, that part of us is patient, has perspective.
mm,
Whereas the opponent or the ego is more coming from fear, more coming from, I need to not feel this discomfort. I got to get rid of it now. And
mm.
so, really, the part of the spiritual journey is really learning to be comfortable and embrace the discomfort. And if
Yeah,
we can, yeah, go
it's,
ahead.
it's like transmuting the negative voice, which I think is super empowering because we all have the negative voice.
Yes, yes. And you
Mm,
kind of treat it like like a gorilla that's in the room. You don't want to like, I see you. I'm aware that you're there. You're saying all these negative things, and you're having me come up with what we describe kind of as like a movie. It happened to me over the weekend. Created this whole movie, and I decided not to respond to it. I just watched it like a gorilla over there,
mm.
and then in that way, then it opens the gates for you to then put your energy elsewhere, and then you'll gain clarity to see that was actually just an illusion. That really wasn't true.
So
So
let's
yes,
take
a lot about having more power over your consciousness, to have your consciousness become stronger than your feelings.
let's get juicy then. How can we use these tools to get more money and more love? Start with money.
Okay, so with money, there's some beautiful teachings on
Yeah.
the Kabbalah.com website.
Mm-hmm.
about prosperity. There's a woman, Batia Solomon, who teaches a weekly class called Prosperity Principles.
Oh, I love
And
it. Mm.
really well attended class, and there's a really strong group. And there's another teacher in London, Marcus Weston, who specializes. He's a teacher who specializes in prosperity. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I receive my guidance from. And
Uh-huh.
but a couple of the concepts that are unique that I've learned through Kabbalah, and maybe they're not unique, they're universal, but I've learned them through Kabbalah and haven't seen them anywhere else, is to first appreciate this abundance idea that it's all that we were talking about earlier, that it's already there. It's a matter of us tapping into the wellspring
Mm-hmm.
that's available to us and not operating from that perspective of lack, and then also appreciating that the humility that it's not mine anyway.
Mm.
Because there's this paradox where the opponent or the ego will, whatever we've earned, even if it's our own hard work, we just feel entitled in a sense that it's us. And when we realize that we're just part of a kind of recipients to this flow of energy that exists, and it's not ours, then it puts up less barriers between us and that abundance, because our ego creates walls, or they call them klipot, which are shells, between us and blessings, any blessings, health, sustenance, close relationships, sense of purpose, inner peace, all the things that we want. It's our opponent, our ego, that creates a shell around our capacity to enter into the realm of where the blessings exist. It's like parallel universes.
Mm.
The abundance is there. We just need to transform ourselves to tap into the realm where the abundance exists.
How can we tap into that realm?
Um, when it comes to money, it's good to explore what your blocks are with money.
Uh-huh.
Where first is where to remove those blocks, and then the idea is to connect to the continuity, that really letting go of it being mine, and that more I'm just like to ask this higher intelligence to use me with where you want me to be. And when we surrender that, then we can tap more into that flow. And of course, you need to do everything in the physical world to, go out of your comfort zone and do things to make things happen. You can't just expect it to. A lot of times, people who have success, you would want what they have, but you don't want to do what they've had to do to get there. So
Mm.
it's also the willingness to be persistent, and that, and how we can tap into abundance as well is to transformation. Like, that's when I said just a second ago, we need to look at what's blocking us. Maybe there's some of the things that I hear when I teach some of these classes, or I mentor a group, is that they might not some people don't feel worthy of it. They don't see themselves as somebody who, they feel guilty to have it, or they feel shame to have it, or it was never a concept growing up that they felt that they deserved it. And so
Mm.
that would be an example of a block.
Mm.
And so then you want to remove that block. Some people have a block where they want it, they want the money, but they have another competing desire that's more important than the manifestation of some kind of success. For example, they don't want to be too vulnerable by, what if they fail? So it's a
Mm.
fear. So then it might block someone from going further with what they might need to do. I felt that with writing the book. Like, it took me so many years to really get stronger than my fears about it. And I wouldn't have been quite clear about that in the middle of the process. I had all these justified reasons why I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. But when I really listened to the quiet and to that honest voice inside, in part it was because wasn't sure if I was scared of all the effort I was going to have to put in, because I know what it would take once you get started.
Mm.
So it's overcoming the comfort zone, going out of one's comfort zone, and then also being willing to reframe failure. First of all, there's no such thing as failure. It's just, you just put yourself out there and let go of the outcome. It's about the
Mm.
transformation that's most important.
Would you think it would be a good empowering, or to kind of consider money as like a loan from the bank of the light?
100%. It's all
Yeah.
it is. Everything we have is
Yeah.
on loan. Our body is on loan.
Yeah.
We have a child. That child is just on loan. We're just a steward. They're
Yeah.
not ours. Getting rid
Yeah.
of the hours. I love what you just said about the loan. It's
Mhm.
on loan.
Okay, amazing. So, another thing I just went before we get into love, because love is super juicy. The
Mhm.
bread of shame thing really, I found really interesting because I know so many women. I'm a real, I would consider myself to be a feminist and someone who advocates for financial independence for women especially. But we're in an era now, of sugar babies or people
Mhm.
wanting easy life or trad wives or even so lots of very educated women who want to choose the rich guy to pay for them.
Mhm.
And I just think I even say to all of my friends, sometimes we have kind of clashes, but this is not the way to go. You always must have your own money. And I just saw the bread of shame. I just thought it was so interesting, about earning some or receiving without earning. So,
Yes. Well, there's so much in Kabbalah when you get deeper in it about the flow of the masculine and the feminine energy. We both
mm,
have masculine and feminine within us.
mm,
There's masculine and feminine between us.
mm,
Um, and so what I have learned that was so helpful about becoming more empowered as a woman through Kabbalah is this idea of earnership, in
mm,
part, not necessarily each person's soul has a unique purpose. For some, it may be to manifest and be successful financially.
mm,
Um, but the idea would be, or it could be, that a person who decides that they want to make a difference outside the home in a different way by becoming involved with stray animals or children who need coats, or it doesn't matter. But in some ways, I personally, I'll just say honestly,
mm,
I think it's important to be able to be financially independent, is
mm.
potentially, because then you're in the relationship, not because you're dependent, but you're always it's always a choice versus I have no other choice but to be with this person. So
Absolutely.
that's a side note. I just think that just makes sense. And
Mm,
at the same time, there are women who aren't necessarily earning, quote, money, but they're earning energy. They're
mm,
doing something outside the home, in
mm,
addition to in the home,
mm,
where they are feeling like a unique, individuated person out in the world. And
mm,
that is really good for a family. It's good for a relationship and good for them.
mm,
So whether it's monetized or not, I think it's going to depend on the person and their unique, what's called tikkun, or their unique karma and their unique path. But I do think it's important to for everyone's fulfillment that we all need to earn that what we're
mm.
worthy as we are at the same time in this physical world in order to tap into all those blessings. We can't unless we are putting in some kind of effort and stretching ourselves and growing and getting outside of ourselves,
Mm.
inside the home, inside our family, and outside.
Okay, so how can I use Kabbalah to find love?
Well, the first step with that is to become, in addition to my book, another book I recommend is Monica Berg has a book called, and she's the co director of the Kabbalah Center, called Rethink Love.
Okay.
And
Mm,
she emphasizes this. I mention it in my book too, because pillar one is all about our relationship with ourself.
mm,
But I think the way she describes it is coming to my mind when you ask that question.
mm,
So that's what came to mind to share the book idea. But that we want to first be, because she says you want to, her byline is be the one,
mm,
find the one, become one. So the first step is you want to be the soulmate you're looking for, so to speak. Work on your own transformation first.
mm,
And and then also look for, which is going to be in part by looking at where you have blocks, where you have fears, where you are afraid to be vulnerable, where you don't believe enough in yourself and you're looking for somebody to be your source too much. You're too much of your North Star, where you're
'Cause that's in your other book about we talked about that in the last interview about the need, the confusion of love and need.
need and love. Yes,
Mm,
exactly. And I do talk about that too. And much of what's in the book, majority of what's in the book, is from what I learned at the Kabbalah Center and how I blend that with traditional marriage and psychotherapy. But the need versus love, it's a paradox again. You need to be
mm,
vulnerable,
mm,
and take the risk to let someone in. But there's also a sense of really knowing your worth so that you have really good boundaries and you know what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And
mm,
that way you're likely, and as you transform, you're going to attract different people in your life. So with every relationship, none of them are failures if they don't work out. They're just here to teach us something. What did I learn? I don't know if you want to do that yourself, but
mm,
in whatever last relationship whatever we were just in, let's say,
mm,
or version of a relationship you're currently in, you want to look at and see where is it that is showing me where my growth is,
Mm,
where my opponent is showing up, my blockages. And then when you do something that goes against them. So if you're afraid of opening up, just let go of the outcome and open up. Or if you're um, feeling like you're too dependent on somebody to define your worth, then resist the urge to check your phone to see if the date is going to call you back.
mm.
You like literally physically do things that go against the belief system that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah, I'm on that journey right now. I'm actually creating a coaching modality called the 8 pillars of self-love, because I've
Oh,
noticed that that's my own. Because I mean, some of those pillars include things like self-compassion, self-care, self-respect, and it's my own journey. And I'm actually doing it on myself, and I'm actually practicing on some people before I'm going to be offering it to the world. And I just think this is so important, because it also does affect, money and love, like the way we price our services. That really is definitely related to self-love, and so is our relationships. And I do think everything is a mirror. And the last relationship I had was, I would say, was a massive learning thing. There's so many lessons there for me, even though it ended quite badly, and it's kind of traumatic to some degree right now. But I know there's a real opportunity there, so I'm just taking every opportunity right now to gain clarification on what I want, clarity, and just healing the wounds, and also owning what I brought to the table. Because I think a lot of people, there's too much blame on the other person when people have a traumatic, breakup or relationship, where we have to think, what was I attracting? So I'm kind of like facing myself in that
oh, it's
sense.
so inspiring, and
Yeah.
you're living so many of the teachings. Um,
Mm,
Example, like you're turning darkness into light. You're
mm,
choosing to take whatever was painful and
mm,
use it for your own elevation, and then also how you can help others going through the same thing. And
exactly.
that's it. That's just and then it's kind of like I used to write poetry. I
Mm,
do sometimes, but not as much anymore. And I noticed that when I would write, I would turn even the dark things into art. And all of a sudden it felt like light. And so it's kind of like living that with our own lives. And
mm.
I love that eight pillared
8 pillars of
course.
love. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so
Mm,
that's it. That's what, looking, examining what the growth areas are and what's creating the blockage and then opening them up.
amazing.
A
So,
lot of times people who like the mirror, like I think in my book I call it the mirror mindset,
mm,
that we want to see where is it that we are treating ourselves the way somebody was treating us.
yeah.
Some even if it's a crumb of it,
Mm,
that not only then because we attract things so that it shows us it's a perfect system of cause and effect. We're here to remove those barriers. And so this friendly universe we're in will bring us people who will show us. But it's like we have it's not we don't get it spoon fed to us. We have to be willing to look past the five senses and the
mm.
and the opponent's natural inclination, which is to blame, which is to see this problem is with the mirror, not with the person looking in the mirror or the thoughts of the person looking in the mirror.
This morning I was so inspired. I wrote this article for Substack, which is really, I feel so inspired on that platform. And I had this really vivid dream that I was looking after a little girl who was sick, and I feel alive when I'm nurturing someone. I just love that. Not just like seeing if they're comfortable and well fed and warm, but also I can read faces, like the emotions, and kind of tap into those things. And there's part of me thinking, do I regret not having children because I have all this nurturing energy to give? And then I realized I was the little girl. That was me. So,
Mm.
the empath, this is the era of after being in something, a toxic or narcissistic relationship. Sometimes the empath is wanting to give when you're
Yep.
not kind of giving to yourself. And that's
Yes.
kind of the thing I'm doing. So I am nurturing my inner child right now. That was the kind of conclusion that I came to
Love
just this morning. I was like this really vivid dream. So yeah, it's kind of a big journey to
That's really
yeah.
beautiful. And that's
Yeah.
so spiritual. It's not
Mhm.
it's so balanced
Yeah.
according to the system of Kabbalah. Like you can't neglect yourself. You won't have anything then to offer to anyone else
Mm,
when we are neglecting ourselves. It's written in the sages that I
mm,
just was studying this about 4 or 5 days ago,
mm,
that they even use the word neglect, that it's the biggest way you help others is really to have extreme, what they called egoism, which is,
Mm,
at its pure form is not making sure that you're not self-neglecting.
mm,
And then from there, though, using that for the sake of how you can turn that into how you share ultimately more with your community.
definitely. So
Yeah.
what resources would you recommend for people who are curious or about this?
Yes, well, the Kabbalah.com, Kabbalah.com is like the wellspring. It's the beginning
Mm,
point. And that you can do a variety of things. You can have a membership on Kabbalah.com, like as a monthly, and then you have access to anything that you'd be curious about and interested in, ranging from astrology to relationships to finances to parenting, to teens to, I mean, it's the gamut of everything in life. And then there are these introductory courses that either called Kabbalah One that you can get them on demand on Kabbalah.com.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then you can also, there's a course that's offered, a global course on Zoom called Limitless. There's Limitless 1, and we're just about to start Limitless 2. And then I think in October is going to be Limitless 1 starting again. And I think it's going to be a really big one. Um, and then there's so those are ways to explore. People can always reach out to me if they're curious. I'd be happy to help you find like an entry point of where, if you'd like to learn more. And then there's a couple podcasts, Michael and Monica Berg,
Mm,
who are some of the authors I've mentioned, and they're the co-directors. They have a podcast called Spiritually Hungry.
that's that was a sign outside the Kabbalah Center.
Yes,
I saw that. I took a picture of it. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
and it's fabulous. And they've done they're on like 200 and something in terms of the numbers
Mm,
of how they've done them. And so that's a really good one. And then there's another one called Weekly Energy Boost that
okay,
talks about the weekly, each week has a different energy. So it's relatively introductory, but it talks about what's happening in each week, how you can capitalize on the week. And then, they're both great. And so those are some other options as well.
amazing. So, which book do you recommend? I mentioned earlier. I have read Money
Yes.
Prosperity, How to Have
Uh-huh.
Everything. What's the next one you recommend for me as a next book?
I think the power of Kabbalah but
Okay.
specifically from the teachings of Rav Berg
Hmm.
be a good next one.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, that's kind of an overview of some of these concepts. But then,
Okay.
go with what you use your intuition. If something,
Yeah.
look at there's a bookstore on Kabbalah.com that you can pick and order or on Amazon, but this is where you can tell the books that they've written. And if something speaks to you, then you can, then I would go with that.
Amazing.
Um,
There's a friend of my co-working who said something called The Wave. You know this one?
yes, I have it right here.
Is that good?
Yes, that's excellent.
Okay. Is
That's
that better than Power
by
of Kabbalah?
Michael. Yeah. That one, this one's this one I describe as a little bit more sweet and soft, for lack of a
Uh-huh.
better word. I can't explain it. I
Okay.
just things in
Okay.
weird ways. This one is a little bit more like building blocks.
Okay. We'll go for Power of
Little,
Kabbalah. Good name.
yeah,
Mm,
building blocks a little bit more logical, scientific, and this
mm,
one is just a little softer, more explanational.
mm.
Um, and it's a softer read for, I don't know if those are the right adjectives. They're both
Okay.
great.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's super inspiring. It's been amazing connecting with you again, and I'm super grateful for everything you helped me with in New York, even though we've never met. But hopefully, I'll meet you
I
one day.
know. I'm so grateful, and I would love to stay connected. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully I'll be back in New York. I met someone there. She's like, "Come back here for your birthday." I met some really cool people that I'm actually connecting with now on Instagram. So
Yes.
yeah.
That's great. The community is is a
Mm,
huge part of it. And it's inherent in the design. It's like
mm,
the friendliness, the love you feeling is because that's how you really live the teachings is in our
mm,
relationships. So
absolutely.
it's not like the people just happen to gather because they want the same kind of things. Yes, that's also
Mm.
true, but it's how you actually create community and create loving relationships that helps you embody the wisdom.
Yeah, and this girl, she actually gave me her Zohar. I was like, oh, wow, isn't this
Yes, yes,
amazing?
yeah, exactly. And that's where all the
Amazing.
teachings come from. And I have this
Yeah.
where we met, I just opened to a page. And this is like, there's are
Yeah.
23 volumes of
Oh,
texts.
wow. Uh-huh.
They're very cryptic. It's really hard to,
Yeah.
so the teachers unpack the
Hmm.
poetry, the lessons that are embedded in here.
Hmm.
And so it's a way to, it's a metaphysical tool. It's not just the teachings are in there. It's a metaphysical tool that is a direct energy of that endless light that
Hmm.
has all of our blessings. So the Zohar
Amazing.
is giving you. Yeah.
So where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, which is drrachelglik.com,
Mm,
drrachelglik.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and
mm,
Instagram.
mm.
Um, and
Amazing.
and the books, my book can be found on Amazon or Barnes and Noble and some local
Mm.
places too.
Amazing. So your book, A Soulful Marriage, for those, yeah, who haven't heard the first episode. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing connecting with
Oh,
you
it's been my
again. And I'm looking forward
pleasure.
to my own Kabbalah journey. I'm super
Yeah,
inspired.
great. Great. Yeah, all the best.
Thanks.